Welcome to another edition of In Conversation. And today's guest is none other than Lawrence Gowan from Styx and Gowan. We last spoke to Lawrence in 2021 when we discussed the album that came out back in that era, Crash of the Crown. Here is Lawrence Gowan.
It was not really, it was suggested to us by Universal, since, the people that come to see Styx shows, etc., they kind of deserve to be at the front of the line, quite honestly. They're rather than just kind of throw it out there to the world at large, they're going to make the most informed kind of connection to the record early on. And because we rely quite a lot on people's reaction on social media, etc., like what we're doing right now, it seems like you want to get them to the front of the line. I think this was their philosophy behind it, but this is how I interpreted it. And let them kind of begin to kind of chat amongst themselves about what they like about the record, what they might not like, what their favorite song is, and what or which songs have become favorites over 2 or 3 weeks, or I think we had it out for about 6 weeks, just available only at our concerts, and then we put it out to the world at large once they're kind of fanning the flames of how much they how the record has connected to them and how they feel about it. And some of them are effusive enough to start listing it among their top 10 or their top 5 Styx albums of all time. And that begins to kind of have a ripple effect where it's not just critics who are, who may have a separate agenda as to why they may like something or not like something. And I think it kind of helps to kind of give fair voice to those that are the most enamored with the band anyway. So forgive, it's a tough subject. Will had the basic chord changes to it, no melody yet, but it felt like this. It rises to a certain melodically or musically, it rose to a certain kind of conclusion. That being in the chorus, and I don't know, the notion of forgiveness is something that you begin to contemplate, I guess, after you've been around for a wee while, as we've been around for a wee while. And we all have some things that we are able to come to complete what's the word now, closure, or whatever you want to term it, to where we can forgive and move on to things. And some things still cling to us. They remain unresolved, and your desire to resolve them can sometimes lead to, like in the song, you're verbally confessing to or professing that you have reached a point of forgiveness, but it might only be lip service that you're paying it at this point, and until you finally reach the ultimate conclusion, which is to say, okay, I have let this go, and I've reached a point of true forgiveness, and letting it be let it affect my life in a more positive than rather dubious way. And that's a tough thing to come to. That's a tough thing. It's a tough type of thing to resolve in someone's life, and quite often it doesn't these things don't get resolved. There is no ultimate resolution to them. So a bit of a heady subject, quite honestly, but I think it works really well with the emotion that we were able to the emotional strings we were able to kind of pull on to put the idea across. That's a really great question, Joseph. It's, luckily we're in a band where we always want whatever's best for the band to be put forward. So they, Tommy and Will wrote a song together that they had me sing on the previous record, on Reveries. on Crash the Crown album, but the song was Reveries. And that's because, one certain voice in the band just seems to carry the message more effectively than someone else. That's really all there is to it. I mean, and in Forgive, we wanted there to be a bit of a conversation. It's not just from one person's point of view. Obviously, if it's a human conflict that's they're trying to be resolved, it's nice to have two voices. And if you're going to have another voice on there, Tommy Shaw is an excellent choice. That one, Tommy, Will, and myself, we went to this studio, this kind of a way out in the woods, just outside San Francisco last year, and we spent a weekend just saying, let's write something. And we started off, we got a few false starts over the first 24 hours, and then suddenly, it's almost like our kind of isolation, because it was raining heavily, etc., led us to kind of reflect a lot on what a joyous experience it is for us and for people that come to Styx concerts. And we just thought a way of kind of saying cheers to them is contained within this song. It's a very kind of, what's the right word? It's an uplifting song. There's a kind of a jolly factor to it. I haven't used the word jolly in maybe, I don't think I've ever used it, but that's kind of what's in there. Maybe I used it once in a Christmas song. There's something kind of good-natured about it. So everybody raise a glass is kind of a cheers to us moment.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Fields of the Brave. It had that feel to it.
Thank you very much for saying that. Yeah, yes, it's got the big rousing chorus that should lift everyone. Yeah. Isn't that great? I mean, I was such a Chicago fan. I went and saw them several times when they came to Toronto in the mid 70s, particularly. I saw them again in the 80s a couple times. But I saw them even in the original lineup when they had Terry Kath in the band. And oh my God, the concerts they brought to Toronto were just stunning. They were just some of the greatest experiences of my life. And I'd always hoped that I'd get a chance in some capacity to tour with Chicago, and it's finally happening. And it's just two of the most iconic bands ever to come from that city touring together. It just seems very apropos and timely in so many ways. And I was excited as anyone when I saw the promo pieces roll out the other day, and so I'm so looking forward to that. We'll still wind up playing a lot of shows leading up to it. We usually play close to 100, if not 100 per year. So there'll be plenty leading up to it. But yeah, that's all we could put together at this point. And, by the looks of things, I think hopefully we're going to get a chance to do more in future with Chicago. So for example, I just played 10 solo shows in 11 days. They're culminating at Massey Hall in Toronto, which is kind of the Canadian equivalent of like Carnegie Hall. And we sold it out for the second time in 2 years. The way we do it is this. Once the Styx schedule is firmly in place, there are a few brief but effective moments of opportunity. The American Thanksgiving and the Canadian Thanksgiving happen to fall in different months, so that opens up a little bit of a window for me to go and play some of those shows. Quite often we play in December as well, and usually early February after we've done our residency in Las Vegas. Those are some of the prime moments. And then in the summer schedule, there's usually some breaks where guys take holidays, and my holidays happen to be playing more concerts. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely keep busy.
I do, but it's the way that I can most It's the greatest enjoyment I have is traveling places and playing. It's just such an enjoyable. I played some solo little series in Peru earlier this year, and I'm going to do one little sojourn into Sicily next year. Is already on there at the beginning of May. So these are things that I just love doing. It also keeps me connected to my life prior to Styx. I've been in Styx now. Going in year 27 now, and I love it. But I still have to kind of find some ways to stay connected to the 6 solo records that I had. There were gold, platinum, multi-platinum, a couple of them, and the audience that really loved that stuff. There is very much a chance. I have to wait until, much like what we just said about the touring schedule, I have to wait until there's an appropriate amount of time to properly promote it. I've got one that's like 95% done, maybe 96% done, and so just a few finishing touches. But I don't want to just throw it out there, especially with the nature of the internet nowadays, where if you're not actively promoting something on a daily basis and out there playing it, performing it, it can just get lost. No matter how good it is, it can just kind of drift away, and I don't want that to happen. So I'd like to wait until maybe if Styx decide at some point, hard to say when, to take maybe a 6-month sojourn, break from touring. I think that would be the opportune time to do that. But in the meantime, I try to stay focused on, what the next group of concerts are ahead of me. I did too, because early on we did do it, and it seemed, songs, it's funny how they suddenly find an era when they really are needed. And the Best of Times is such a great piece that it wasn't really, somehow in the early 2000s, it wasn't, I'm not sure exactly why, but it wasn't really up there on the list of songs that people really wanted to hear, and it was the same with Mr. Roboto. It still kind of lived in that in a weird place in the audience's minds, where it had been very relevant and very necessary, and then songs can sometimes go through a period where it's like, this isn't really what I want to sing right now. But Best of Times just seems like tremendous lyric to reinforce some positivity in the world, and that's something that I've always admired about Styx long before I joined, is that they had songs that somehow helped to take the best out of any situation and hold that up to the light, rather than just plunge everything into the abyss. Somewhat a joint effort. On a day-to-day basis, I took myself out of that debate many years ago, maybe about 20 years ago at least, because there's no bad choices. And sometimes we'd get into these kind of differences of opinion as to what we should and shouldn't play. And I began to realize, if I just look at the menu before we go out on stage, I have full confidence that there won't be one dog on that set list. It just doesn't exist. Where I got more involved was, I was championing definitely that we should start playing Mr. Roboto again, and that started around 2014, as was Tommy in a lot of ways. But ultimately, it was our tour with Joan Jett, funny enough, that finally put us over the edge, where we went, let's just do something different that's really people won't expect. They don't expect us to tour with Joan Jett, which is fantastic, and they don't expect us to play Mr. Roboto, which is a song, like I was referencing, that suddenly seemed extremely relevant again, and feels that way every single night that we play it. It was a very prescient piece that predicted quite accurately where we are now with our relationship with the technology. All the things that I still had a lot of my vinyl records, although I have rebought a good number of them at this point now that I realize it, and paid like 40 and $50 for the same album that I bought for $3 and $4 years ago. So I've lived long enough to see that happen. Yay! And but I'll tell you my favorite. I have a jukebox that was built in 1946 and only plays 78 RPM records. And for quite a few years there, and I'm still doing it a little bit, I'll look on eBay or on any kind of site that sells 78s and look for rock records from the beginning of rock's emergence, roughly 1956. And between 56 and 59, when finally the RPM, the 45 RPM came out, there were so many amazing records by Elvis, by the Platters, by Jerry Lee Lewis, by Little Richard especially, one of my faves. Some early Buddy Holly stuff's there as well. I don't know why, I wasn't, that's not the music of my era. I was born then, but I didn't really gravitate to music until I heard the Beatles when I was like 7 years old. But there's something about that 50s rock and the players and all of it, and hearing it on a 78 RPM record that just, I'm very enthralled with it. Yeah. Projects, it's an ongoing thing to keep my Mellotron working. That's one project. People probably don't even know what I'm talking about. It's a keyboard from the 1970s. There's that. I like going for rides on my bike. I've got a few different bikes now, and I've found that I just enjoy that. That's the one kind of escape that I get from it. And other than that, playing with the dog. These are big things for me. Yeah, trying to stay in shape. That's the biggest thing, Joseph. Because right now it's like we're at a point where in order to keep the band putting on the show and on the energy level that we do, we have to kind of fight against what nature wants and what we want.
I think that's the truth.
I'll punch you right in the mouth, nature. You gotta find ways of kind of making things work for you the way they used to in the past and that you took for granted. And so in order to do that, I try to stay as healthy as the universe will allow.
Nice.